Okay, I do not think this review is fair. I have never seen a single movie in the Rwby franchise. And going into this movie, I thought it was going to be a Justice League movie with these characters in here. That's what the trailer looked like too. But no, apparently after I finished watching this movie, I was all like, is there movies before this? Because this movie just felt like I was supposed to watch something before it. And sure enough, I look into it. There's 9 movies in the Rwby franchise. And apparently, I think I should have watched that before watching this movie. Because this movie is just a Rwby movie, but with a Justice League crossover into it. Now, that being said, did I enjoy this movie not seeing a single Rwby movie in my entire life, but knowing who the Justice League is? That's the only reason why I wanted to watch this movie as well, was because of Justice League. So, did I like this movie? Okay, let me break it down. So, for starters, the animation. I did enjoy the animation. I loved like the anime comic video game kind of style they were going for. And I just really enjoyed the animation in this movie. And then the plot is like you have to try to piece the plot together as they find like mysteries. I enjoyed that as well. But again, if I have seen other movies of the Rwby franchise, I think I would have liked this crossover a little bit more. But I was able to piece together some of the characters' like origins and backstories in the Rwby franchise. But nothing that I like understand exactly what the characters going through and their arc exactly. And I also do feel like there should have been a Justice League kind of movie before this as well. But again, I feel like this movie just focuses more on the Rwby characters than it does for the Justice League characters. And that part just didn't work for me, because like I said, I don't even know who Rwby is. I did say I enjoyed the animation. Now, but for the facial expressions on the characters, I didn't buy it. It didn't look believable. Like the characters weren't pulling off any facial expressions. Same thing with the voice actors. Now, the voice actors, sometimes there was like a second delay between each line. And then other times when they sounded upset, they didn't look upset. And then other times when they looked upset, they didn't sound upset. And it just didn't work well. It wasn't this nice blend to it. And the part 1 in the title, I don't really find as a part 1. Like when I read a part 1 in the title, I think it's going to be a abrupt cliffhanger like another comic book movie that came out this year. But I was thinking it was going to be a abrupt cliffhanger, and I can't wait for part 2. And then it ends, and it's nothing like that. Like if part 1 wasn't even in the title, they do not need a sequel. So that part 1 in the title is completely unnecessary. That part 1 does not need to be in the title. But that's just a small complaint. And the pacing, this movie's an hour and 20 minutes. 5 minutes like being the credits. So technically, this movie's an hour and 15 minutes. And it just felt so long. This movie felt like it was an hour and 41 minutes. That's Ollie Pacific, but I just felt like the runtime just kept going on and just was never coming to a stopping point. This movie just felt longer than it was. Some parts I was bored, but then other parts I wasn't. So this is a kind of movie that you can watch it, and then at some moments you can like scroll through your phone, and then you can watch it again, and then scroll through your phone again. That's what this kind of movie is. Or at least how it felt for me. Maybe it's different for you Rwby fans, but for me, that's what it felt like. And I just didn't really enjoy this movie. So all in all, Justice League, Rwby, long title. I think it's like superheroes versus... I think the title's like Justice League x Rwby, superheroes, and Huntsmen part 1. Stepping along that. But this movie was just not made for me. Like, I should have done my research before watching this movie. That apparently I needed to watch the Rwby universe before. The only reason why I watched this movie was the Justice League. At least the animation's good. The story is enjoyable, but the pacing is bad. The voice acting can be bad. The animation expressions can be bad. And it's just... I had to piece a lot of stuff together. And just... I should have watched Rwby before this. So, that's kind of my bad. But... where I sit, like if you're like me, never seen Rwby, I do not recommend. If you have seen Rwby and you're a fan of Rwby Universe and the Justice League, I say I do recommend, even though I'm not a fan of Rwby, so I don't really know how that works. So be cautious if you want to watch it because I recommended it to you, but be cautious going into that if you're a fan of Rwby. And then out of 10, I don't really know what I could give it. Because like I said, this is not a fair review. I needed to watch Rwby before this. But if I were just to give a rating, just on my just on like how I feel about it, I will probably give it a 5 out of 10. Again, just I needed to watch Rwby before this. But just on my perspective, I gave it a 5 out of 10. But anyways, thank you guys for watching, even though this wasn't a fair review, and see you guys all next time. Goodbye.